Apple threatens to ban Facebook and Instagram, and they actually did it. But that's a story from The Sun. Facebook and Instagram threatened with a ban from iPhone after secret slave market uncovered on apps. Apple threatened to ban Facebook from the iPhone after an investigation found that its app were used for human trafficking. The fracas began in 2019 after the BBC reported that human traffickers in the Middle East were using Facebook apps to arrange sales of victims. Hashtag used by users in Saudi Arabia and Kuwait featured adverts of the illegal buying and selling of domestic slaves against their will. Women were sold for a few $1,000s each, categorized by race and deprived of their basic human rights. They were unable to leave. In response to the investigation, Apple told Facebook that it would ban its products unless action was taken. This is not a small ban, by the way. Can you imagine Facebook and Instagram are no longer on Apple? That's a big hit if that were to take place.
It's huge. Go back exactly 2 months, and what was Apple upset about? They were getting hit, right? Hey, your devices are listening to us. Hey, you're not doing this. Remember Apple was getting hit?
Yes.
Now, Apple was getting hit. And who was coming after Apple, right? The first people that come after privacy on Apple is not the conservatives. It's the liberals. Those are the first people that come running down the street.
I think that both parties think that there's a serious issue in Silicon Valley. I think most Americans think that.
Apple's taken it in the chops 2 months ago, big in the chops, about the listening, the camera that turns on by itself, which isn't really turning on by itself, it's the way it's designed, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. Now you've got, I believe, Apple is doing the right thing, and then, by the way, also had a problem with their own employees. Remember, their own employees were talking about salaries. They were talking about a whole bunch of stuff. They were talking about working conditions in factories. So 2 months ago, Tim is like, okay, what do I got to do here? Well, I have to take an altruistic stance, number one, and I also need to take a stance in lockstep with the U.S. government, specifically the Department of Commerce and the foreigners that are running it. So I think that's what Apple did. I think Apple has taken a stance that's altruistic. They're trying to align themselves with the U.S. government. The U.S. government is still, still got the scope down their throat looking at what's going on. And I think Apple had to move this direction.
Who needs who, by the way? This is a great example of who needs who. Does Apple need Facebook or Facebook need Apple?
Good question.
That's very.
Facebook needs Apple. You always need distribution.
That's right.
And what's happened
That's right.
in just these past few days? I mean, have we all not updated our phones? Because for the first time in how long, Apple was like, our security's been breached?
Yep.
And I'm like, wait a minute. Most of these iOS upgrades, whatever. But no, Apple is announcing to people, we screwed up. Somebody got into our system. You have to download this upgrade or you're going to be infiltrated, whatever. I mean, to me, that was a big admission that nobody picked up on. But my IT person immediately was like, Danielle, there's a bug in Apple. Upgrade your phone immediately. There's a bug in Apple. Upgrade your MacBook immediately.
But the story here is about this secret slave market.
Yeah.
So we're not even touching
We're
that.
not even,
You're saying that is a small sliver of an issue, and the privacy issues outweigh that.
It is a huge issue, but the social media and technology elite in Silicon Valley have done little for 10 years to prevent the weaponization of the tools they've built by really bad people. And you can move.
So you're saying this
human
is a hypocritical
trafficking
move.
is terrible, but you could sit there, search and replace that with all these other things that really bad people are doing. Everything from drug trafficking to human trafficking.
Well, remember New Zealand?
This is an offshoot of this. This is a little case example of the big tech issues that we're facing, is what you're saying.
I mean, terribly bad, horrible people around the world are using Apple and Facebook and Instagram.
Yeah, wasn't it on
Facebook?
Remember in New Zealand there was a mass shooting?
Yeah.
And they brought all the bad people together on Facebook. So I mean, and they're censoring Americans from having open discourse?
So if you enjoyed this little short segment from the podcast that we did, here's another short segment to watch. Or if you want to see the entire podcast, click over here. Take care, everybody. Bye-bye.